It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because all the good funny farms were full. The Talk Funny podcast from Nagoyaradio.com and Nagoyacomedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
And welcome to Talk Funny. I'm Mark Bailey. He's Mike Miller. I kind of didn't have my list with me today, what I wanted to talk about. But one thing before I forget, Anthony Kiedis, he has an autobiography out about his time with Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's called Scar Tissue. I don't know if you're a big fan, Mike.
I love the music. I'm not very knowledgeable about them and their background, but I love the music.
Yeah, I actually kind of like Faith No More. They're kind of similar, and they've been having a feud with each other.
Faith No More's still around?
I don't know. Maybe they broke up.
I didn't even know they were still around.
But at the time, I remember Anthony Kiedis. It was in the book. But the thing I wanted to bring up is that he was talking about with John Frusciante. Anthony Kiedis first got kicked out of the band because he was on heroin. And then
what?
Yeah, and then they had a Flea.
That's shocking.
Flea. No, it wasn't Flea. It was. We'll come up with his name in a second. He died of a heroin overdose.
Wow.
While he was in the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Under a bridge?
We'll have his name in a second. And then John Frusciante, the guitar player, was also on heroin. And so Anthony Kiedis came to the conclusion that, yeah, if you could go to maybe Red Hot Chili Peppers, like the wiki, and they'll have
that's the wiki.
Yeah, so
Kiedis, Flea, Chad Smith, Josh Klinghoffer.
Keep going.
And they used to have
former
Tony Hillel Slovak.
That's him.
Drummer Jack Irons.
Hillel Slovak is the guy who overdosed. So the conclusion that Anthony Kiedis had was, maybe it's not a good idea for three guys to be doing heroin in a band on their world debut. That's really, yeah. Where'd you come up with? Yeah, probably it's not a good idea.
He forgot his spoons at home.
It's kind of funny because he got kicked out of the band, and then they had him back in, and then they got their first chance in 1992. You can see this on YouTube. It's really worth watching. 1992, Under the Bridge, SNL, their Saturday Night Live performance. It's really worth watching because John Frusciante is so out of it, and he's on heroin. It looks like he's about to fall over, and it looks like he's asleep. And apparently he had a feud. He had a feud with Madonna. She was on the show at the time, SNL, and he was mad because Madonna didn't say hi to him, and she said hi to Anthony Kiedis, and aren't you glad comics aren't petty like that?
No, we're not like that at all.
So,
completely sane, normal people.
So the funny thing to see is kind of like Anthony Kiedis is getting his karma back because he screwed with the band by being on heroin, and now he's on. He was complaining in his book. He was saying, I'm on Saturday Night Live, and this is our. In 1992 was right after Nirvana broke, and they were about to hit big. Red Hot Chili Peppers. They hadn't hit big yet, and they were playing Under the Bridge. And John Frusciante is about to fall out of his chair, but it's just kind of like whispers of Under the Bridge. It's kind of like a whisper of part of a key of Under the Bridge, and that song is important because you need the guitar part to get to the vocal part. Where Anthony Kiedis was
kind of waiting for him.
So Anthony Kiedis is just looking at him, and you can see it, the two of them. He's just looking at him like, is this how my career ends? With his hands open. He's just like, he looks at him like he's about to ready to catch him if he falls over.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's that close to him. He's just like, and if you listen to the lyrics, so he starts singing, and he's like, sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. Yeah, how ironic. He should have broke into Alanis Morissette. Isn't it ironic?
Isn't it ironic, don't you think?
Don't you think? It's like
rain on your wedding day.
And so then there's a point in the song where he realizes John Frusciante is just screwing with him and doesn't care about the band. So Anthony Kiedis turns his back on him during the show. This is just like a 3-minute song, and it's like a drama. It's like a HBO drama or a Netflix drama. It's like House of Cards in 3 minutes.
Wow.
Really worth watching.
This is well written book.
Yeah, pretty interesting. But he's very, Anthony Kiedis. I mean, he's kind of naive. I think he's kind of like, yeah, I never realized I'd have so many problems if I did heroin. Yeah, that's kind of
Someone get that man a copy of Train Spotting. I mean, come on.
Do you have any children that you know?
Have you seen Train Spotting at all?
That's kind of why it's illegal.
Baby on the ceiling.
A baby died, Anthony, in the movies from that. So,
I never knew heroin would be so bad for me.
So basically his conclusion is, he said, if I had known that drugs would have screwed me up that much, I probably would have done less of them. He goes, I realized later that people die from that. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Janis Joplin.
Yeah, a guy in your own band died
Yeah.
right in front of you, and you didn't realize that until you came out with the book. So, I don't know.
Wow.
Anthony
A little bit
Kiedis,
lacking in self-awareness.
we probably won't have him on the show, so there's no worry of offending him.
Yeah, I'm in a feud with his manager right now, so I don't think he's going to be on for some time.
We don't have time to talk about all of them, but we've dealt with, when you live in Japan, the type of foreigners that come to Japan, basically what I'm asking is, are there any normal people that are foreigners in Japan?
Yeah, it's very hard to meet a normal person in Japan. It seems this is the kind of, there's that, what is that in the Pacific Ocean? There's that, they'll call it the gyre, North Pacific gyre, where all the trash kind of floats around. I'm kidding. No, it's not that bad. They're good people here in Japan. But yeah, it is kind of like flotsam and jetsam.
We're kind of like Ronin. Everybody is just like a individual rogue samurai.
Right.
Every one of us.
And in Japan, everybody takes you at face value, which is why everyone you meet in Nagoya is either a DJ or an actor or a comedian or a musician. But it's funny, there's no English teachers. I haven't met an English teacher yet.
Exactly. There's a nice lady that comes to our shows, and she'll remain nameless, but you know who she is. And when I first met her on the train, we were on our way to a English class in Gifu by one of these business dispatch schools. And, I was a radio guy, and I was still in my phase where I'm like, yeah, I'm a teacher. Wow. Have you ever thought, you go from like morning drive telling flatulence jokes and making prank phone calls, and now they call me sensei. They call me teacher. And I was actually proud of it for a bit, So I said to this girl.
Went to your head. So
I said, how long have you been teaching? How long have you been a teacher? And she goes, oh, no, I'm not a teacher. I'm a writer and a poet. And I said, okay, but you're on your way to an English class. What poetry class are you teaching? Are you taking a class? And she's like, no, I have to go teach this class, but I'm not a teacher. So nobody's a teacher. It's kind of like in New York. It's like, hey, waiter. Hey, I'm a screenwriter.
Right.
Don't call me waiter again. I'll spit in your soup.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to blame people. I mean, I don't fault people for trying. The nice thing about Nagoya is there are a lot of people that are out there trying to do stuff and doing videos or plays. There's all sorts of plays here in English. There's about at least 3 or 4, I think, a year, right? 3 or 4 plays.
Yeah.
There's tons of foreign bands. So there's a bit of a cultural scene here.
It's a great place for a witness protection program, actually.
Exactly.
You can come here, you can be whatever you want. It's like, in the States, maybe you were selling weed or something, and you can come here and you can turn over a new leaf, and people call you sensei, New leaf, so to speak. See what I did?
I saw that, yeah.
You don't even need papers, It just come over.
You can really grow your career.
I mean, you have a new pot to cook in, you know what I mean? So, but enough about what I did in the States. No, that's not my past.
We shouldn't be talking about this subject because in Japan they're really crazy about that stuff.
I'm actually safe because I have no connection to any of that from the States. But I will. It's the statute of limitations is so far away now. I actually came to Japan to avoid a lawsuit.
Oh, yeah?
It's actually true, from my radio station. And what happened is I was the program director, and I was supposed to enforce the rules. We're going to get, you have to, or the management came to me and said, you have to fire this DJ because he was using drugs and talking about it on the air, and you have to fire him. So I fired him, and then the lawyers came to me and said, well, he's going to sue you now. And I said, but you guys will back me up, right? Because the management, and they said, nah, not so much.
Oh, that's nice.
And I said, well, what happens if he sues me? And they said, well, if he sues you, you get a lawyer. I said, well, what happens if he sues the station? He said, well, if he sues the station, we will fire you, and then you get a lawyer. So don't get sued. I said, what if I sue the station? He goes, if you sue the station while you work for us, we will fire you.
What?
So like, wait a minute. So either way, I'm fired, basically.
Is this is like a Kafka novel or something?
It's like, what did I do? You know what you did. Yeah, I fired a guy. Why did you let that happen? Well, you told me.
You told me to.
So it's like, it's like Catch-22. It's like, can I see the doctor? Doctor's in. Can I see him? No. You can only see the doctor when he's out. But when he's out, he's not here. That's right. But you can't see him now. Why? Because he's in.
It's bizarre.
So that's why I came, and then I met in the taxi going to teach a class. I met this guy from the West Coast, and he was talking about how much he hated law enforcement and stuff. And he heard a siren and he ducked.
Are you kidding me?
No.
This is great.
He heard a siren. He goes, is that a Japanese siren? I said, yeah, because it's different from the States, And he ducked, and I said,
PTSD.
Yeah, so I said, we're going to teach. I'm just screwing with him. And I said, we're not teaching auto mechanics tonight. We're teaching police officers. And he's like, are you kidding me? It's like trying to get out of the taxi. So my question is, how many normal people have you known in Nagoya that are foreigners?
That's a good question.
I'll give you a second.
Very few. I don't think I qualify as normal. So,
How many? This is back in your part of the ballpark. How many normal bosses have you had?
Oh, normal bosses. I've had actually. My bosses now are very normal, but in the past I've had some crazy ones, man.
By the way, we're
not just in Japan, but also in Canada.
By the way, we are not Japan bashing. Our bosses, the weirdest bosses, are foreigners. Here, in my opinion. Did you?
I haven't worked for any. What was? I worked for a certain man at a company that has. I used to have W's in its name.
Did you treat did he treat you like crap?
No, he was actually quite good. But he was. I've heard stories about him, and he was a very large man, very forceful personality, and.
Large in an ironic way.
Yeah, but he would kind of some people were intimidated by him. He was not a bad guy, but he would. One time I was riding the train. I was on the train to work, and I saw him on the train. And you have to talk to your boss when you see him. And he was like, "Is it just a minute?" And he picks up his phone, and I was like, "It's really rude in Japan to do that. So people don't usually talk on the phone on trains." So I was kind of surprised, but it was an emergency. And he's like, gets off the phone, and he's like. Just talking to one of the teachers for our school. He's been locked out of his apartment. And I was like, well, really? What happened? He's like, he hasn't paid his rent for 3 months. So when you have to deal with people like that, I think you got to have a reputation.
Well, I will talk about a guy that Nagoyaradio.com, we hired him, and he's from North America region, and he's a very flavorful character, and he gets angry a lot.
I don't know if I know this person. It sounds completely unfamiliar to me.
And he's the kind of guy who can go to a breakfast place that everybody loves, and he's the only one that has a bad time there. It's like, they treated me horribly. What do you mean? What do you think I mean? What are the words "treated me horribly"? What do you not understand about that? So I hired him, and then he did some work for us for sales. He also was helping me with management. I was the manager, and we had a program director that this guy did not get along with. And then we had problems with the web designer. Web designer was also from the North American area. And the web designer basically held our web page hostage. I don't know if you ever heard about this, but you were around here at NagoyaRadio.com.
Yeah, I can kind of remember a little of that.
He would take us off the air when he decided not the guy I hired. This is a web designer that this other guy referred to me. So when the guy is talking to his girlfriend, the web designer, and the girlfriend convinces him that he's not getting paid enough by us, we weren't making a lot of money at all. And I always paid my staff before I got paid.
Radio's a big money business, people.
Oh, boy. And so...
almost as big as podcasting.
She convinced him that we were doing him dirty, so he just took us off the air. So then we had ads that we had promised to run, so that I get calls at night from the sponsors.
Now, yeah.
And they're like, "Well, you're not even on the air. We're not paying for the whole month." So I call him up, and he's like, "Yeah, you got to pay me in the parking lot, man." So I think you're getting an idea.
Parking lot,
man. I think you're getting an idea.
Deep throat.
What part of North America he's from? He's like, "Man, you got this no good. You can't treat me dirty like this, man."
I think that's a Canadian accent you're doing
exactly.
there.
So I had this very volatile Joe Pesci. We called him Joe Pesci. He was my program director. He was a pit bull. He was loyal to me, 1,000,000,000% loyal to me, and he would tear your face off if he thought you were disrespecting me. He would tear your face off.
Wow.
A little anxious for the pay that he was not getting. He wasn't getting paid. And we called him Joe Pesci. He was a small guy too. So I told him, I said, "Listen, can you come help me, because we've got our webpage is being ransomed, and I don't know what this guy's going to do. And he told me to bring money. I don't know how much money to bring. It's like a scene out of Casino. So we're right here at the office.
Open the suitcase and I'll take what I need.
We're at Yabacho Station. We're near Yabacho Station, so right down the street. It's a very secluded area, and a lot of Russians live there. It's a very